Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and I want to comment on this video from Patrick Bet-David. It's titled, Buy or Rent a House, the 7 Rules No Realtor Will Tell You. And I gotta say, as an ex-realtor myself, because I did this for over 10 years, I have about $130 million worth of sales volume, there's a lot in here that both you need to be made aware of, and also that Patrick didn't mention that could end up saving you tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars if you make these mistakes, you don't pay attention, whether you buy or rent, it doesn't matter. This is incredibly important, so I want to talk about it as soon as you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that already. And also a big thank you to Relay for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. Let's begin.
If you're going through that anxiety of wanting to buy a house or renting a house, I have one simple goal by the end of this video. I want you to be resolved by the time you're done watching this video to say, I'm glad I'm not buying, or I'm glad I'm gonna buy and I feel very good about it based on the 7 markers I'm gonna share with you in today's video.
So important, by the way, I brought up this stat, according to the National Association of Realtors. So they're not trying to skew the data to make you not wanna buy a house, but this is pretty eye-opening. Apparently, 82% of home buyers express regrets about their recent property purchase, according to a new survey. That basically means that buyers are sacrificing something, they didn't do their research, they got a house that they ended up having regrets on. Like, why? At this point, at this market, you're paying top dollar for a house. To walk in with regrets of, I should have done this, I didn't do that, I messed up. Shouldn't do that at all, which is why, you taking the proper precautions ahead of time are so important. Like, just watching this video, I promise you is gonna put you ahead of like 95% of other home buyers out there. Just by like this next 10, 15 minutes. It's crazy.
The cost of renting today is $1,845 per month. The cost to buy today is $800 more, give or take, $26.97 a month. You may watch this and say, Pat, why do I need to watch the rest? Just based on this, I should just rent.
Yeah, just based on that chart alone, overall, majority of you are probably better off renting than owning a house right now. If the option is buy a house and pay like 50% more, or you could rent the identical house for, 25, 30% less. For most of you watching, it's actually better to rent. There's this fantastic calculator. It's called the New York Times Buy versus Rent Calculator. Used to be free, and then they started charging you for it because they realized that people found it very useful and they could make a lot of money on it. Anyway, it really went through all the miscellaneous costs associated with home ownership, buying and selling, closing costs, investment returns, opportunity cost, and in a lot of markets, it would take about 20 years to break even between buying and renting a house, which is wild. Like, under 20 years, you're better off just renting and investing the difference. And that brings up the reality that in today's market, the average person only keeps their home for like a median of 12.8 years. So they're not even going to keep their home long enough to be able to break even on the purchase before they just sell, pay the cost, and then move on to the next one, which is crazy. So I gotta say, when it comes to this, it's really important to do the math, understand what you're buying, and know what you're getting yourself into. And then also the fact that most people who rent don't invest the difference, which is the big key element here. If you're just renting, you save the extra money, but you blow it at Coachella, it's bad. Just don't do that. Then you're just better off buying something because it stops you from spending money that you shouldn't be spending.
That's the US median household income today. But this is where you need to be to qualify to afford a US median home today. So let me get this straight. This is what we're making, but this is what it qualifies to buy a house, yes.
That's only because so many people locked in record low mortgage rates and now they're stuck. Like my house here, I locked in at 2.875%, fixed for 30 years. If I were to pick up and go and buy the identical house down the street, I'm talking like the exact same house, same everything, my payment would go up by about 80%. I'd be paying 80% more for an identical house bought today instead of buying in 2020. That's based on higher interest rates, higher purchase price. I wouldn't do that, and that just means I'm staying here. It makes so much sense just to stay where I am than buy a new house because I don't want my payment to go up that much. And a lot of people right now say the same thing. They don't want their payment going up, so they just stay where they are, constrict supply, and that means that people pay more for just whatever else is available. That's all it is.
In 1960, the median house cost about 2.5 times your income. In 2020, it cost 5.5 times. You know what that number is today? 8.5-ish.
You know what? I'm going to call this out here. It's somewhat fake news. Like, I wouldn't just believe the headline because that is pretty shocking. But when you really get down to the details, it's actually not as crazy as you think. Back then, interest rates were substantially higher, so that even though it did cost you 2.5 times your annual salary, you are spending like 10 to 15% a year in interest. Okay, fine, whatever. Beyond that though, the average home size back then was like 3 bedrooms, 1,200 square feet. Today, that same starter house is 4 bedrooms, 2,800 square feet. So you're getting way more house, way more bedrooms, way more amenities, you're getting air conditioning, you're getting all these things that you didn't get back in like the 1950s with a way lower interest rate. So it's not exactly apples to apples, even though it seems on the surface, oh, it's true. It is, but you're also getting like a third of the home size. You're also getting no air conditioning. You're also getting probably better building materials in fairness, but anyway, we'll continue.
This is small home construction from 1975 till today. No one's building small homes. Used to be 40% of it. Now it's less than 10% at 7%.
Here's the thing. Buying a home teaches you really quickly that if you don't know your numbers, you're going to get blindsided. And the exact same thing also applies to running a business. Think about it. You can't grow as a business if you're guessing, where did my payroll taxes go this month? Who got paid? What expenses go to what account? Trust me, I've been there. This is where your business gets stuck, simply because you don't keep track of everything. And that is where our sponsor, Relay, is there to help. For those unaware, Relay is a no hidden fee online business banking and money management platform specifically designed to give small business owners more clarity and control. What I really like is how Relay lets you set up a structure that keeps everything organized. For example, you could open up to 20 checking accounts, which makes it simple to separate income, taxes, payroll, savings, or whatever other categories best make you aware of what's going on. Relay also lets you give your team their own login information with custom settings, whether it's a bookkeeper, assistant, you name it. That way, you stay in control while they can handle the day-to-day securely. And when it comes to paying vendors or contractors, they have built-in bill pay, so you can handle ACH, wires, or checks directly from one platform without jumping around. I've just noticed that for a lot of business owners, getting this part down, tracking payments and knowing where everything is the difference between putting out fires and constantly falling behind and actually having the room to grow. Not to mention, with Relay, you can connect directly to Xero and QuickBooks so your books stay clean and audit ready without the extra stress. So if you want to set up a system that supports where your business is going, scan the QR code on the screen or click the link down below in the description to get started today. Again, that link is down below. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the video.
No builder's interested in building small homes. Now you may say, that's because they're so greedy. All they care about is making money. Everything you look at is more expensive. Those guys want to build. It's just more expensive.
That is very true. I'm glad he brought that up because that's just the state of development. It's so expensive, so time consuming, so many regulations to build a house that it doesn't make sense anymore for a builder to put all this time into like a 2-bedroom house that's 1,300 square feet because it's not going to sell. They're not going to get their money back. Everything is more expensive. Everything costs triple what it would back then, just because of the permitting issues, the zoning issues, the cost of labor, cost of material, everything is more. So the only way they could even make money on this is because they have to build the 4-bedroom to sell it for more money. They have to.
If you go from 1971 till today, this is Wall Street Journal, the blue is U.S. median housing price. So somebody may say, why would I buy housing? If I would have put my money in S&P 500, you mean to tell me this is S&P 500 versus housing?
You know what, that is true, but here's the flip side to that, is that all the real estate that you see that's not really going up that much is bought with leverage. So you're going in, you're putting 10% down, but if the home moves up in value 10%, well then all of a sudden you effectively just doubled your money. The other thing is that usually when someone's paying off a home like this, it's a forced savings account. And most Americans are horrible at saving money. They just don't save money. The savings rate is like 4% right now. So you're telling me we expect someone to invest the difference in the S&P 500 to make more money? Logically, that would make sense, but emotionally, people just don't do it. They just don't save money. So buying a house is like the only way someone could build equity in something. so they're not going to blow it. And that's a sad reality. There have to be those guardrails in place, otherwise people are just going to screw it up.
Say the house you're buying is $400,000. And let's just say the median monthly rent today is $2,000. If I take 12 times $2,000, it's $24,000. $400,000 divided by $24,000, what do I get? 16.6. If the number you get is under 15, time to buy. If it's between 16 to 20, it's up to you. If it's 21 plus, maybe it's time to rent. Very simple formula to follow.
See, that's very interesting. One of the ways that I've always thought about it, though, is really called like the 9% rule, which basically says for every $100,000 of a home that you buy, it's going to cost you about 9% of that purchase price every single year that goes off into the abyss. How do I come up with 9%? Well, you got to assume you're probably going to pay about 6.5% on a mortgage, okay? Then you're going to spend another 1% for property taxes. Then you're going to spend another 1% for insurance and all these other miscellaneous things. Then you're going to pay another 1% for just random stuff that comes up, like normal repairs. And at the end of the day, that means that about 9% of the home's purchase price every year is going off into the abyss if you're getting a mortgage. So for every $100,000 that you borrow, but $9,000 of that just, poof, vanishes. If you could rent a home for less than that 9%, maybe it's better that you rent. As an example of this, let's just say you want to buy a home for $800,000. 9% of that is $72,000 a year. If you could rent that $800,000 house for less than $6,000 a month, there's your answer. Rent the house. If it's cheaper to buy it, or you plan to keep it for like 20 years, by all means buy it. But yeah, renting is making a lot of sense, really unpopular to say. People think, oh my gosh, well, he's a landlord. Of course he's going to say renting is better. That really upsets me because I don't have a horse in this race. I do not care. I am selling off my rental properties. Everything I have currently is all rented. I have no vacancy. I'm not planning to buy more rentals right now. I gain nothing by this. You know, I used to tell people it was a great time to buy, and everyone was like,
Oh, he only says that because he's a realtor and he wants commissions.
even though I never closed a deal off YouTube. Ever, 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 ever. So it's not like I'm trying to like pick up business by saying it's a good time to buy. So people say, oh yeah, he's biased, don't listen to him. And then when I rent, and then when I say it's a better time to rent, they're like, oh, but he's a landlord. Again, I don't have a horse in this race. I do not care. I just care about math. That's it.
If you're trying to get a national median home price in June of 2025, which is $435, if your credit score is 717, your rate's going to be 7.42. Payments $3,018. But if your credit score is 800, you may get a 6.22 rate. Mortgage is now $2,674. That's a $300 difference. So maybe for you, it's not a good time to buy. Maybe it's a good time for you to fix your credit.
Yes, very important, but also don't take the first quote they give you. This really upsets me that people will go to like a big bank and they get a quote for a mortgage and it's kind of high. And they're like, well, I guess that's what interest rates are. Bleh. Come on. And they don't shop it around. I see that rate and I'm like, it's a high rate. Go and get 2 other quotes. Go to a credit union too. You'll be able to get that quote down almost by 100 basis points. So if you get quoted like a 7.2, we could probably get you close to like a 6.5. Okay, it's just the reality of it. But most people just take it at face value. They're like, oh, I guess that's the rate. No, shop it around. If you get a quote from Bank of America, shop it to Chase, shop it to Wells Fargo, shop it back to Bank of America after the other two have beat the amount of money you're going to save here. That, trust me, will save you tens of thousands of dollars. Right there, that one little thing, tens of thousands of dollars back in your pocket for maybe 3 hours worth of work. Maybe 3 hours, tens of thousands of dollars. What's your hourly rate? Calculate that and then consider that you'll save tens of thousands of dollars for like 3 hours. Trust me, it's worth it. Shop around your rate.
Phase of your life you're in. Let me explain. You're single, so you may want to be a little bit nimble. You're like, I don't know if I should buy or not. Should I not? Maybe you're married with kids and your expenses are high. Maybe you're an employee and you have a steady job. Maybe you're an employee, you just got started, it's not steady. The idea of buying a house has to do with where you are with your career, life, marriage, personal life, all of that matters.
Very true. That's something that most people never even think about. I really believe in your 20s, not the time to buy a house. Even in your 30s. Really not the time to buy a house unless you get a great deal. You know you're going to be living there for the next like 30 years, or the payment just makes sense. But otherwise, when you're young, your payment trajectory is probably going to be upwards, and it really helps to have both the mobility to be able to pick up and leave, and the house that you could qualify for and afford 5 to 10 years from now is going to be so much more significant than what you can today. So if you're disciplined to be able to invest the difference, keep stacking your money, boost your career, be mobile as needed, it's going to pay off so much more in the future than just buying a house now because that's what they tell you to do.
I don't like the fact that you're talking about politics. Business is politics, religion is politics, every family is politics. Everything you do has to do with paying attention to politics because those regulations impact the safety of your kids and if it's a place you want to be there long term. So based on this,
I never thought politics would have any relation to my decision of where to live. Honestly, I'm so like middle of the road. I really do not care. I never cared my entire life. But when I saw California just go so downhill so quickly, and it really affects your quality of life and enjoyment of the entire area that you buy and live in, my gosh, then you realize like, wait, like these people matter. What they say and what they implement really has a direct impact on everyone's well-being. So yes, I do agree with him that politics do make a difference. More so though if they're bad. The bad politics, when you start getting like, people just breaking into stores all around you and you just don't feel as safe walking down the street at night, it gets to you and you want to pick up and move.
7% of homes are not closing in California because the moment people say, I'm qualified, this is awesome, this is great. Wait, how much is homeowners insurance? Babe, I can't afford this because $3,000 plus this, plus that, babe, I'm sorry, we're out, we're not buying this house.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. So about a year and a half ago, before all the Palisades fires, I wanted to take all my insurances, put them under one umbrella, consolidate everything, just make it easy because I had like different policies for different things, like one car insurance, one home insurance here, home insurance policies over there. I just wanted one umbrella, keep it really, really, really easy. And as I was shopping around, all the companies were telling me, we'll insure everything but your properties in California. Anything else is fine, just not those. And I was like, why? And they said, well, we're not insuring in California anymore. Okay. So I call up my own policies just to see what's going on for, better renewal rates or whatever. And my guy tells me, you're pretty lucky to have a policy right now in California because we're not issuing any new policies. They're just grandfathering in the policies they already have. And even of those policies, they're increasing them. And that was a very shocking moment to me that like, wait a second, this can't be replicated. What I have right now, that's it. So unless things get better, it'll probably get worse.
Share it with people that are about to go through this because there's nothing like making a decision that you don't look back and you're not nervous at all because you put a lot of time thinking about it up front. And when you do so, you get to actually enjoy the home you're living in, or you get to actually enjoy the apartment or the house you chose to rent because you have your formula down. You're good about it, right?
Yeah, all I'm going to tell you as an ex-realtor is be patient. And buying a house is not really a logical decision all the time. It's very much emotional. You buy a house and you see it and you just fall in love with it. You feel connected to it for some reason. And there is a price that people will pay for that. So even though we're talking about just like the numbers here, and the numbers right now favor renting, there is something to be said about the tangible benefits of being able to buy a house, call it yours, do what you want with it, know that it's yours, even though you're paying interest to the bank and property taxes and insurance, and all those companies are way worse than a landlord, trust me. There is that emotional component to buying a house. So all I would say is this, is that if you're looking, understand where you want to be. Check the property at multiple times. See it morning, afternoon, night. Make sure that you don't get crazy neighbors on the weekend that are really loud. Make sure it's not next to like a busy freeway or like one street gets really busy during like rush hour traffic you just didn't know. There's so many little things like this. And it's usually better, I hate to say it, usually better to buy a bigger home than a smaller home. A lot of people say like, oh, I don't need that big of a home. What am I going to do with all the square footage? I don't need that fourth bedroom. Why pay for it? Usually people find a way to use the extra space, usually. And more of the regret has to do with buying a home that's too small than too big, okay? So just overall, be aware of that. And I'm going to link to this survey down below in the description from Realtor.com. Take a look at it. It is very interesting. Don't forget also to check out Relay down below in the description. Thank you again for them to sponsor this video. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time.